A shot.
Awesome. So tell us about your message. What are your pieces called?
My first piece is called Baby You're Enough, and that is something that I wrote. It's a piece dedicated to my future teenage children. My children currently are quite young, but I thought, wouldn't it be nice to kind of just be able to screenshot, if you will, a little message that is pretty timeless, to be honest. It's not just for children. I've had a lot of people come to me and say to me that we resonate with that. And it's just about not giving into peer pressure, not, just being confident with who you are, be comfortable in your own skin, and don't let other influences influence who you are and what you're about.
So that's a very strong message, and a lot of people use different kind of mediums to express their message. Why poetry?
I think poetry, and I like poetry doesn't have to rhyme, but for me, I like it when poetry rhymes because I think it sucks you in. And I think for me, it's a subtle way of getting an important message across, but still keeping the reader engaged. Because if there's rhythm to it, there's this subconscious thing of knowing what's the other word that's going to rhyme with that word. And it's that way of keeping a reader continually there to be able to get to your message from start to finish, because sometimes the messages can get lost. Just because you're confident and passionate about something, it doesn't necessarily mean your readers will be. So it's important to make sure that they're engaged, and I find poetry is a very effective way of doing that.
So what got you started with writing?
Here's the thing, it's quite straightforward. I want to share something I recently learned. The more I looked around, the more I saw it really got me quite concerned. That need to be liked by others. It's okay, it's inherent in every one of us. But when that desire creeps up to the next level, that's what we need to discuss. See, we must learn to love ourselves first before we can attempt to love another. Because if we're not happy with who we are, we will never have time for one another. You could say it's the secret to liberation, to perfect one's character first. You must know how to lead by example. Only then will your efforts be reimbursed. Because then you are free from hesitations and reservations, because these are the foundations upon which they build temptations for you to look for mutations in a place where they don't really exist. So don't be that consumer, because it infects like a tumour. To them, it's just good humour that they could be such evil groomers. So why must you persist? They will try to build this notion that you need to buy stuff and be this sensation by rearranging your formation. But this inevitably ends in the summation that you are not enough. Well, that's quite simply not true. Because only when you're free from influences is when you can appreciate differences and be accepted by wider audiences in a society where such extravagances become the common experiences. So just be you, because it's your imperfections that make you perfect. Remember, the only fears we are born with are the fears being dropped and loud noises. So then if all other fears are acquired, then surely we should be inspired to overcome these insecurities and fill our world with positivities. Because in a society that's so subnormal, no one should be choosing your normal. So stop what you're doing, take a look in the mirror, and breathe. You owe it to yourself to be your own best friend. Create your own carefree world where there's no need to pretend. So just drop your shoulders and quit being so tough. Because believe me when I say, baby, you're enough.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Hafiza. I am a mummy of 3 young children, and I am very busy. And I am a dispensing optician by profession, but I've taken a career break and I'm focusing on a few other things currently.
Awesome. So what brought you here today?
Well, I've been doing a few spoken pieces recently. I came across spoken lyric, and I loved the message. I really liked how people were bringing their own viewpoint onto things in a poetry format, and I thought that would be amazing for me to bring my message in the same way. And I love poetry, I love writing poetry, I love performing poetry, and I thought, this is brilliant, I'll give it a shot. So my puppet, here we are, 3.5 years of age. They say you have ASD and developmentally delayed. My darling, you need to know, there will be times people won't understand. When you're dealing with a sensory overload, I will be there to hold your hand. You were born to be quirky and fun. Your giggle truly makes my day. You are beautiful inside and out, in an extra special way. If only I could reach inside and hug your innocent heart and be your voice of comfort when you feel so many worlds apart. as you look deep into my eyes with that adorable gaze of yours. Oh, I wish I could know what you're thinking and see what your little mind explores, for I would travel to the moon and back just to spend a minute inside your head, to see how the puzzle pieces fit and make sense of the words unsaid. I know these lost words are coming, I sense it more and more every day, but for now, I'll hug you tighter and help take that frustration away. You are talented and dynamic, your perspective truly unique. You've captured so many hearts, and hey, you've yet to speak. I feel so lucky to have you, to show me different views. Oh, how boring the world would be if we all thought the sky was just blue. Your world will soon shift again as you hit the big four. Let's feel the wind in our sails and go knocking on that school door. As we learn and grow together, you will achieve anything under the sun. My love is unconditional, oh my gifted precious one. So carry on doing what you do, you have already come so far. Your destiny awaits you, my little superstar that you are.
How did you start writing in the first place?
Well, I've always loved English at school, and I've studied English, but I've never really done any creative studying, any creative writing studying, anything like that. But I knew I've always been able to write poetry, and it started when I was at when I was primary school, and a girl came to me and said to me, "You know, write a little love letter for my boyfriend, and I need it to rhyme." And that's how it started. And I realised, oh right, okay, I can actually make things rhyme, and I just started, you know, being known as the girl that you go to for little love letters that rhyme, and I was like, oh god. Anyway, I left that and then studied and did whatever, and then I picked the pen up actually years later. I had nothing, my background's in optics, so this was just something that really just came out all of a sudden, and I took a career break with my eldest has a diagnosis of autism, so I needed to stay home, and I just felt like I needed to keep my brain going, keep my brain stimulated, and I just thought I was very passionate about these messages for children, for teenagers, and then I just started writing. So it's always been there, but I think I needed something like this, like a message, an aim, a goal to actually direct it towards, and then after that it was just plain sailing.
Awesome. So what would you say, like, to anybody else that's trying to get into writing that isn't too sure about poetry, or maybe they're kind of, you know, quite new to it? What advice would you give to someone that wants to get started with poetry?
You know, for me, what's worked is I've never taken myself too seriously, and I think sometimes when you think too much about writing poetry, are people going to like it and all the rest of it, if you think too much about that, I think the message gets lost. I think what's important is be clear on your message, and also don't take yourself too seriously. Just write down what you want to write down in the way you want to write it, and it will just form. I have so many half-written things on my phone. Whenever you get a brilliant idea, write it down, and you can develop it at some other time when you feel inspired to write, and then you'll see that a lot of the messages and anything that you're passionate about, you'll see a lot of it comes together naturally.
Awesome. Could you give us one line from, what's your favourite line from one of the pieces you performed today?
Yeah, the last line of my first poem, yeah? I would say, because believe me when I say, baby, you're enough.
Awesome. And just as a final question, what piece of advice would you give your younger self?
Wow. I would say, again, don't take life so seriously, because nothing is permanent in this world.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I've been doing this like since 8 o'clock.
8:30.
Yeah.
All good.
Bless you. Okay, so have you got enough?
Yeah.